what I mean, 1 year for 5 or 6 years you might have wide plants, or and then they'd be stretches out to bell bottoms, and then after bell bottoms go, they come up to thin, tight pants, and it goes to the exact opposite is shocking. And then it'll go through its stages. So same with dresses, same with culture, same with hair. Like if you want to look at shocking fashion, the leading edge of fashion, it's of being excitable, being different, and taking attention. It's the cycle of Uranus. So this the sign Uranus is, we see these outer planets more affecting the sign, although the sign is actually affecting the excitement principle. But because we're watching this whole generations, everybody born within 7 years has Uranus in the same sign. So like that's why it's someone born around your same age within 2 or 3 years of you is going to have the same outer planet positions usually, and there you have the same areas. But as soon as you get beyond 5 or 6 years, you run into the possibility of you have relationships where people are looking for excitement in different ways. Wow, this is why if there's a 21-year gap between parents and kids, that's the Uranus square. They're looking at excitement in ways that definitely threaten each other's excitement. So we see the effects of we begin to understand Uranus very clearly as we watch them in transits, but it's important to have a sense of how it works in the chart. It's not a direct thing you see blatantly. It's something that's a little hidden, but the presence is there. In the houses, you see it as a destabilizing force, but in the signs, where the signs are affecting Uranus, Uranus picks up that sign, and it's looking to make the qualities of that sign exciting. So the qualities of that sign come in and hit Uranus, but Uranus is taking that energy and trying to change it a bit. So when you go through each of the signs, we're going to see how Uranus is, it's like the mischief maker in a way. It's trying to change or alter the normal way that each planet is. Sorry, I just have one of my. I just got to close something here, sir. My email is still open. Okay, so yeah, my email was shocking the tradition, the structure of the moment that I just all seemingly neatly set up. So if everybody has, you almost can see this, these are generational factors, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. But Uranus, everyone for 7 years is going to have shock in a certain way. So I grew up I'm born in 46, so in the 40s you had Uranus going through Gemini. And that was the freedom to words. That was the idea that brought out education, brought out radical education, brought out poetry, brought out rock and roll, it brought out folk singing, it brought out radical writings, it brought out freedom through ideas and a love of unique and shocking ideas. Wow. Well, that was going on at the same time the war was going on, and just after it, how everything changed. So for each person, now you can't think just each person in a specific country, it's each person everywhere in the world. So during those years, and when you're dealing with the signs, it's really, we're working through the Northern Hemisphere signs as we're doing this class. They still apply to the Southern Hemisphere signs, but they're reversed. So the season really affects, and the outer planets, they're generational factors. They're very different in the Southern Hemisphere than here. So when we have Uranus and Gemini here, it was in Sagittarius and around adventure and traveling. It was much more excitement and a very more social factor in the Southern Hemisphere. When it went into Cancer in Northern Hemisphere, it was the shock and insecurity and the worry about, well, the need to have an exciting, to get a home, that's freedom after a war, to have your own place, to have your own security, and then to have your own place where your excitement kind of came through that. But in the Southern Hemisphere, it was in Capricorn. It was a very different pattern because they didn't really have that much of the war in the Southern Hemisphere. So we can take this down. You see these, you can watch Uranus, Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto and really watch them historically. We'll see this a lot more when we get to the transits. But Where you have your Uranus, if you're at the beginning of the sign, you're going to have the beginning of, you're going to be the first ones bringing in that shocking or exciting new ideas of that sign, or trying to make that sign a little bit more radical. No, if it's in Leo, you're going to want to be noticed for being radical. You want to make a big show of it. If it's Aquarius, it's not making a big show. It's want to have really unique knowledge, really good for astrology, but really shocking knowledge. If it's in Virgo, you're going to want to work for yourself or have your own skills or do things your own way to a much higher degree than normal. And if it's in Pisces, it's going to bring out more radical faiths and beliefs and a different sense of morality, a more independent or shocking sense of morality or understanding. If it's in Scorpio, if it goes into Libra, it's gonna create unconventional relationships, not committed. So it's committed relationships, which would be like a Saturn in Libra would bring the seriousness about sharing, or the need to make commitments around sharing. Uranus is like, who needs to be tied down that much? Or why not? Why shouldn't there be really mixed relationships of any kind? Okay, so the generation that's, well, Uranus is in Aries now, so in the northern hemisphere, so it's the radical, it's the rebel base fighting the Death Star. It's like the unions and the individual movements fighting the big empires that are the big companies, and they're holding everything or controlling everything. And that there's excitement and radical in it, but it's a little more aggressive and violent, like terrorism. But in Libra, it's changing the nature of relationships in the southern hemisphere. But the people born 40 years ago, that are 40 now, that are sort of in positions of power, are the ones who have this sense of relation. They grew up trying to be different in relationships. You know, so nothing ever starts in a moment. It builds up, and you see these phases come along, and they move around. And as they move around, all the inner planets are working within it. So this is an outer planet. It's not as blatantly noticeable as the sun. It's not what gives you confidence. It's not your moon. It's not what gives you security. It's another factor that comes out that you just respond to. And it's much more difficult to personally direct the outer planets. It's more a question of aligning with them. And normally the outer planets, Uranus normally in a house or in your chart is a place where excitement comes, but usually it's a place where you're unstable, where there's anxiety, where there's sudden shocks, where things don't hold together that much. So it tends to be idealized as the planet of astrology, but like I said, I think Saturn is more the planet of astrology, although Uranus is the excitement of something different. But it's not really something different. It's actually the order of how everything works. But not much different than the unions are just as saturnine as the governments. They have their rules, their regulations, their order. It's just, anyways, there's certain similarities. But this principle of excitement, of change, of it can cause anxiety when you're afraid of the change. It can cause a detachment or a not caring when you're going with the change. But it is tending to be this radical, exciting problem. I like to just think of it, this is the principle of excitement, and then observe whether it's happening positively or negatively. Negatively, excitement becomes anxiety, shock, nervousness, restlessness. So when we watch the aspects, we'll start to see how the planet connects with other planets and where this nervousness or restlessness goes. But then when we put it into the houses, we're going to see this sudden change and this instability goes into specific affairs. Here we're looking at attitudes to excitement. We pick up these attitudes. And how we'll interpret them is that these attitudes that we pick up are going to be almost either shockingly innovative in the sign they're in, or very contrary to the established order of the sign it's in. So it's kind of a rebel rouser or a catalyst. A catalyst would be a good idea. A catalytic energy would be where Uranus is. You're not, if you get You ever worked at a job you didn't want and you're just thinking, how do I get out of this? I can't stand it. I got to get out of it. Like, it's that need to break away, the need to just be unique. So it's neat. It's an interesting planet to work with. It's like, what's your attitude to your uniqueness or to your excitements, or what's gonna, it's not what you like, that's what's not what you want, that's Venus. It's not what you're doing, that's Mars. You know, it's not how you're thinking, that's Mercury. It's what's unusual, what's different, what's radical about it. Or often if you're afraid of the radical, what do you worry about? What causes insecurity? What is the place where you're afraid of excitement? Fear is really Pluto, but there is an element in anxiety, extreme anxiety is very Plutonian, but this nervous, restless anxiety, that is certainly, Uranus doesn't help with patience. You're going to be impatient about the factors of the signs. So even as a planet, it's an odd planet in the solar system. You can't see it, but it's the only planet that's really on its side, and it's rotating sideways like a bowling ball rolling along. And its rings are on the side like that. They're going up and down. Like Saturn has its rings on the plane of the things. It moves a little bit up or down, so you can see the high point or the low point, but it's never sideways. We never see the rings completely as a circle around the planet. We do see that with Uranus. It rotates on its side, it rolls along. The planets are moving up and down from where we normally would think. So it's it's really unusual. Even the planet is radical and creates a very different energy, but its presence is there. It's just, if you're going to try and work with Uranus, you have to have worked everything up to Saturn, have some discipline together if it's going to be a safe thing to do. So for every exciting or free idea we get, well, if I want to make this happen, this is exciting. Oh, geez, I'm going to have to work at this. And you got to work above and beyond the norm to keep up to the demands of what's needed to keep it exciting. Okay.